Hello, my name is Jeff Jordan, and I want to welcome you to this webinar on the 2017 postal rate changes. This webinar is one in a series of webinars presented in conjunction with the National Postal Forum. The next National Postal Forum is scheduled for May 21st through the 24th, 2017 at the Baltimore Convention Center in Baltimore, Maryland. To receive an extra 10% off your 2017 NPF registration, be sure to check the box labeled "I have a different discount code" and enter the code FALLON 2017, that's FALLON 2017, into the discount code box and then click Apply. For all the vendors on the call, don't miss out on the premier marketing event for mailing professionals and the USPS business customers. Exhibit where you can reach your target customers more effectively and efficiently. Booth spaces are assigned on a first-come, first-served basis, so act quickly. Go to the NPF website for the latest information. That's www.npf.org. If you have any questions during this webinar, please use the dialog box that appears in the GoToWebinar controls. In addition to covering the prepared remarks, we'll answer as many of those questions as time allows. So let's get started. Mark, what will we cover in today's webinar?
Jeff, thank you very much, and thanks to everyone who's joined us today. This is one of the more interesting rate changes in several years. As you know, in 2016, the rates for many market-dominant products were lowered when the exigency rate increase expired. Now, there's legislation in both houses of Congress to reinstate part or all of the exigent rate increase. However, both bills have stalled, and with Congress set to recess in just a few days, it's highly unlikely that either will pass. This rate case includes some increases, some decreases, product rebranding, and weight level changes. After we cover those, we'll walk through an implementation checklist for actions managers should take before and after the implementation date of January 22nd, 2017.
January 22nd. That's a Sunday, isn't it?
That's right, Jeff. For the last several years, the Postal Service has implemented the rate changes on Sundays. This is a good move for mailers and the Postal Service. While mail only may be delivered 6 days a week, many operations in the print and mail industry operate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Even shops that only deposit mail Monday through Friday often begin processing work on Sunday afternoon or Sunday evening. When you and I began in this industry decades ago, rate changes meant changing the charts on fan scales. Yeah, do people know what fan scales are? Check Google. Set the default on meters, or maybe even installing new chips. Today, software drives our industry, from creating mailing statements, mail.dat files, and eDocs, to running the machines that produce and meter the mail. Most of the software updates will automatically take place on Sunday the 22nd. That means managers can take advantage of the extra day to run additional tests on their equipment and production software.
The rates for shipping services are calculated separately from the market-dominant prices and even require a separate filing. However, the changes also go into effect, or will also go into effect on January 22nd. Will you walk us through what those changes are?
Certainly, Jeff. And the Postal Service has done, I think mailers a good service in having all the rates go into effect on the same date. And they've tried to do that for many years now. Sometimes it's been able to work out, and this year it will. So let's start with Priority Mail Express. All Priority Mail products are zone-based. So the dollar amount you see here and on our other charts are based on Zone 1. So you need to know your mail and where you're shipping to for your exact costs and your increases. The largest increase is on the retail side, ranging from 3.5% to 6.5%. However, as you can see, they've also leveled a lot of the base pricing at $22.95. This will make it easier for the public and the clerks at the retail counters to know what the postage will be for these products. There are additional fees of $12.50 for Sunday delivery and $5 for delivery before 10:30 a.m. It's important to note that the Postal Service is the only major carrier that delivers on Saturdays at no extra cost. So that means if you're a true last-minute Christmas shopper like me, you're going to make those deliveries on time. The same approach is used for commercial pricing with a common price of $20.66. The same extra fees apply, including an additional 20 cents if packages are non-IMPB compliant. That's the Intelligent Mail Parcel Barcode.
The slide doesn't just state commercial, but commercial base and commercial plus. Can you explain the difference?
Absolutely. The commercial base prices are available for those people who are either click and ship customers mailing regional rate boxes, registered end users of USPS approved PC postage products when using a qualifying shipping label managed by the PC postage system used, by customers using permit imprint, customers using priority mail open and distribute using permit imprint with a qualifying address label, and permit holders using merchandise return service for mail pieces returned at priority mail prices. Commercial base pricing is also available for customers using USPS approved information-based indicia, IBI, postage meters that print the IBI with the appropriate price marking and electronically transmit the transactional data to the Postal Service. Commercial plus pricing are available to priority mail customers who qualify for commercial base and whose cumulative account volume exceeds a combined total of 5,000 letter size and flat size pieces. This includes flat rate envelopes but not padded flat rate envelopes, or 50,000 total pieces in the previous calendar year and have a customer commitment agreement with the Postal Service. The postage savings in these categories are significant, and business users of any of the priority mail products should consider moving in that direction.
And we really noticed that in the standard priority mail category.
That's right, Jeff, and that's why we have 3 separate slides for priority mail. Unlike Priority Mail Express, the retail rates didn't see the highest percentage of increases. The common flat rate envelope is only increasing 3.1%, or just 20 cents. And the very popular medium flat rate box is only increasing 15 cents, or 1.1%. I've visited a lot of retail post offices around the country the last few weeks, and I always see people carrying armloads of these flat rate boxes. And to be honest, I've shipped out a few myself. I want to point out the APO, FPO, and DPO flat rate boxes. APO stands for Army Post Office, FPO is the Federal Fleet Post Office, and DPO is the Diplomatic Post Office. This is if you're shipping to a service member or someone in the State Department who's on board a ship, out of port, or is in the Air Force, Army, or Marines and is stationed overseas. Based on the real requirements of the requests from families and friends to help support our service members and our diplomatic corps overseas, the Postal Service provides this service at a $2 cheaper than the standard large flat rate box. This is just a great opportunity and a good reflection of the Postal Service, truly extending the bonds of our country. Speaking of, so the commercial-based pricing, while experiencing the same price increase as retail rates, is seeing a higher percentage increase, ranging from 3.5% to 8.7%. However, despite these increases, the discount from retail price is substantial, up to $1.75 for large flat rate boxes. As I said earlier, businesses who use priority mail need to move to commercial base or commercial plus. Speaking of commercial plus, the per price increase is the same or lower for other categories. It's easy to see the strategy of the Postal Service trying to help more shippers to move their business to the USPS.
So the remainder of this webinar will focus on the market dominant rate change. Any comments before we get started?
Well, as most of our attendees know, the market dominant rates are limited to a price cap set by the Consumer Price Index, or CPI, which for this last period was only 0.71%. There was also some banked authority or room for additional changes. While the overall increase for market-dominant products was 0.871%, mailers will see higher increases in certain areas and even decreases in others.
Let's start with first-class mail. There are changes to pricing as well as changes to mailing standards. What are the things that we need to know about first-class mail?
The first change is adjusting the rate tables and removing the 3-digit rate category for automated pre-sorted mail. The pricing for 3-digit and AADC levels have been the same since 2012. This change streamlines preparation requirements and mailing lists, will have a significant impact on people that pre-sort their own mail as well as pre-sort service bureaus. You may remember that at the National Postal Forum in Nashville, Postmaster General Brennan announced that the Postal Service would file to expand the weight allowances for commercial automated letter mail. For some time, mailers have been able to add a second ounce for free. In Nashville, the PMG stated that the USPS would increase the weight limit to 3 ounces. Well, she more than delivered, as now the new rates include letter size automation mail up to 3.5 ounces. This is great news for mailers, and we'll discuss some additional ideas on how to take advantage of this change later in the webinar. There's been some more rebranding as alternate postage has become shared mail. Now, a big break for small business mailers. The rates for metered mail actually drops a half a cent from 46.5 cents to 46 cents. This also includes users of PC postage. This will be a big help to companies that just don't have the volumes to pre-sort, and actually they're so small they may not have the volumes to attract the attention of a pre-sort service provider. Lastly, the 0.3 cent initiative for mailers using the Full Service Intelligent Mail Barcode, or IMB, remains in place.
Sounds like mostly good news. How did the rates break out?
First-class mail is also like shipping services we talked about earlier. It's divided into 2 categories, retail and commercial. Retail are the single-piece rates for those of us who are business mailers, and commercial is when you're using meters or have volumes and sort discounts. So for first-class mail retail, letters have increased by 4.3% for a single ounce, or moving up to 49 cents. Or maybe, better yet, we should say moving back up to 49 cents, because that's what the rate was until the exigent surcharge was removed last year. But what was interesting was the Postal Service did not change the amount they charged for the second ounce, which is 21 cents. So that means a 2-ounce letter and a 3-ounce letter only went up 2.9% and 2.2% respectively. For first-class mail flats, you've noticed that they've gone up 4.3% or 4 cents. But what's very important amount is to look at the amount, 98 cents. Why is that significant? Well, what's a first-class letter cost under the new rate? 49 cents. So when you're sending a flat, it's simply 2 first-class stamps. And I think that's really important, especially for retail.
It is.
It's a smart move by the Postal Service. You know, how many times people try to figure out what's the postage going on to a piece? Just being able to put 2 stamps on is going to make it easier for the customer and also for the clerks. The rate for postcards, 34 cents, remains the same, and first-class parcels increased a nickel, going up to $2.67 for the first ounce. For the commercial mailers, and that's most of the people on this call, your first-class letter pre-sorts have gone by different amounts depending upon how fine your sort is. Actually, the better you sort your mail and the deeper you sort your mail, the lower the increase was. As we noted earlier, single-piece metered mail is actually decreasing to 46 cents. The mixed AADC and AADC categories are increasing only by 1%. And here's another more piece of good news. The 5-digit sort is decreasing by 0.8%. Now, when you first take a look at this, you think 0.3 of a cent may not seem like a lot. However, mailers who are sorting to the 5-digit level probably mail about 1 million pieces a week. That translates into a savings of $3,000 a week or $150,000 a year. I don't know about you, but that would certainly help my budget.
It would. Mark, I'd like to go back to the changes in the weight allowance for automation, pre-sort mail, and the increase of what can be mailed at the 1 ounce rate to 3.5 ounces. Can you talk more about that?
Absolutely, Jeff. As I said earlier, at the NPF in Nashville, the PMG announced her intention to raise the allowance to 3 ounces, and she came through and it's increased to 3.5 ounces. That's a lot. This weight increase means savings of anywhere from 25 cents to 37 cents per piece for many mailers. So that's additional pages, heavier stock, more inserts. The opportunities are substantial. So what should mailers do? First, mail operations managers should schedule meetings with the marketing and sales departments to explain the new rate structure. Additional inserts in bills, inserts in notices, inserts in statements, these are easy methods of increasing the value of the mail. But that's just the beginning. Mailers should reconsider the design of every mail piece and exploit the prospective ways to take advantage of this rule change. For example, are there flat pieces that could be redesigned as 6x9 letter mail? Those savings would be very substantial. Redesign should also include the use of color in marketing messages in the statement or bill. Inkjet color is transforming transactional mail printing. Along with the use of color comes the use of different paper substrates. So treated paper will ensure that the color pops and grabs the reader's attention. But treated paper often means slightly heavier paper. Your 20-pound paper, just a little bit more. But because you're not going to pay additional postage, you can use that treated paper without increasing postage costs. But more than just using color, mailers should reconsider the layout of their bills and statements. Currently, marketing information is often an insert or a page that's printed after the transactional information. And that makes sense because if the piece is going to get too heavy and go beyond 2 ounces, they can cut that out. But now, we know the customer is going to read the first page. So why not add some of this pertinent marketing information to the front of the bill and change the entire experience for your customers? What we're seeing here is that the technology, color print, treated paper, and now postage rates are coming together to create a unique opportunity to transform the customer experience.
This brings us to one of the biggest changes. What used to be standard mail is now USPS marketing mail. What's going on?
Well, Jeff, as you know, I was a little concerned about this change when it was first announced. Any type of changes like this sends a little bit of a shockwave, especially for those of us who remember when there used to be something called third-class mail. Very fortunate, though, earlier this year, I attended the latest MTAC meeting and had the opportunity to listen to Sharon Owens, the Vice President, Pricing and Costing for the Postal Service, as well as her boss, Jim Corcoran, the Chief Customer and Marketing Officer. And they explained that the goal of this rebranding is to influence corporate marketers as they develop their customer and prospects communication strategies. This rebranding reminds them that mail is a vital link in the communication channel. It's not physical or digital, it's physical and digital. And the change of using USPS marketing mail will be phased in over the next 18 months. Now, at the MTAC briefing, there was a concern raised by one of the audience members about the transformation of standard mail to marketing mail. Specifically, many pieces that are mailed at the standard rate aren't marketing pieces, and a new indicia with new language could create confusion for the recipients. Mr. Cochran provided a great response to this question. he made it clear that mailers will not be required to use the word marketing in their permit imprint. The Postal Service understands that any changes they make need to add value, not detract value from the mail piece. Going further, he stated that as the service type is in the Intelligent Mail barcode, maybe it's not as important to have the class of mail appear in the permit. This represents an opportunity to review what information should appear in the permit imprint. And I think we're going to hear some more announcements soon, maybe even at the National Postal Forum next spring.
Anything else going on with marketing mail?
Thanks. Like first-class mail, the Postal Service has eliminated the 3-digit sort level. They've also limited the per-pound rate between 3.3 and 3.5 ounces. Again, this is consistent with the new weight categories in first class. They've also increased the flats price weight break from 3.3 to 4 ounces, and the FSS pricing reverts to the previous structure, and we'll discuss more about that in just a bit. The rate structure for marketing mail is not quite as straightforward as first-class mail, as the mail entry point has a significant impact. So we're going to have to stay at a fairly high level during this review. Mailers need to take the time to know their mail, know how it's shaped, how much it weighs, where you're entering it, and at what level you're sorting it to fully understand the impacts of this increase. For example, for letters, our chart shows the difference between a mixed origin submission, Destination Network Distribution Center, or DNDC, and Destination Sectional Center Facility, DSCF, entry points. So the closer to the carrier that the mail enters the Postal Service, the lower the prices. And this makes complete sense because of the cost of transportation. For the listeners who use a vendor to create and enter their marketing mail, set up some time to have the vendor explain to you how they plan on achieving the lowest possible rate for your mail. The flats chart is, well, it's a little bit more confusing because of the added variable of the FSS, or flats sequencing system. When the FSS was introduced 8 years ago, the plan was to increase efficiencies and speedier sorting and delivery of flats through automation. However, because of reports of some damaged mail and delayed deliveries, some mailers opted out of preparing mail for the FSS. In 2015, the Postal Service adjusted the rate charts to have specific pricing for FSS prepared mail. Well, many mailers balked and opted to find other methods for this mail. As you can see in the rate case, they're now the same in most categories. So this reverts the pricing categories back to the pre-2015 change. And it'll be very interesting to see how this impacts volumes of flats.
I've noticed that for periodicals, you've only included bullet points and not charts. Why is that?
Well, Jeff, I said that standard mail was a little confusing. Periodicals can become very confusing. The periodical rates are based on a large number of variables. Content, is it advertising versus editorial? Outside county versus inside county? Machinable flats or non-machinable flats? And then you're preparing containers, pallets, and bundles. And you know what? There's even more variables. People who mail in this category need to be experts or need to hire experts to select the best way to present and prepare the mail for the Postal Service. And I want to emphasize experts. When we have clients that are sending out periodicals, we reach out to people who are specific experts in this class. You need to compare content, preparation costs, and then postage to find the best solution for your organization. You need to know your mail, especially in this rate class. What you are seeing in periodicals is while the overall increase is low, just 0.8% for outside county and only 1% for inside county, the distribution of these increases is dependent upon size. Remember, the CPI is across categories, so it has to average. That means smaller, low-volume publications will be seeing a larger increase, while the larger, heavier, high-volume periodical mailers will actually see a postage decline.
Finally, there are changes within the extra services and fees. It's impossible for us to get through all of these changes. So what are the most common extra services and fees that impact mailers, and what are those changes?
Jeff, as you said, there's a lot of options with special services, and the average increase is just 2.5%. But mailers need to know, what do they use? Do you see P.O. boxes? Do you use certified mail? Or do you use certificate of mailing? You really need to look at what you use. Post office boxes are actually increasing, I think, substantially at 6.7%. Certified mail is increasing by 1.5%, and return receipts by almost 2.9%. And I would ask, why do you need return receipts in the age of electronic receipts? This goes back to, do you know not just what you're mailing, but why you're mailing it? A lot of folks, we both come from a financial services background, use certified mail when the law actually says certificate of mailing. However, lawyers may not know the difference. That's where the folks here on the call who run mail organizations need to meet with their internal customers and make sure they understand what's the right class of mail and what's the right service they should be using. So take the time, meet with them, and find out why you're sending mail a certain way.
So Mark, when and where are these new rates published? Is there still a rate fold available?
A rate fold? Jeff, you and I are showing our age. For those of you on the webinar, the Postal Service used to release the rate increase on a piece of paper. Yes, it was physical, and it was folded 3 times. An 11 by 24 sheet that you could basically fold into thirds that became a 6-page rate fold. It was duplex. That was the entire rate case. Now the USPS price list is no longer a rate fold. The Notice 123 is available on Postal Explorer, pe.usps.com, either as an HTML document or PDF document. I downloaded the current price list, the current Notice 123, and the PDF is 75 pages long. That's really significant, 6 to 75. That demonstrates how much our industry has changed.
Yeah. Can you provide our listeners with some tips on what they should be doing during the actual implementation of the new rates?
So I've gone a little bit beyond tips. For anybody who's attended one of my classes on process management or quality control, you know I'm a fan of checklists. So we're providing a checklist to people to follow and divide it into 3 areas. One is what you should be doing right now, what you'll do directly before the increase takes effect, and what you should be doing on January 22nd and 23rd. So the first thing, what you should be doing now, if you haven't already done it, is to send an announcement to your customers. And this includes your internal customers if you're a corporate mail center, as well as any external customers if you're a print service provider or a mail service provider. Let them know these changes are taking effect. Look at how it will impact their bills and what you charge them. This is a great opportunity to show your customers that you're adding value to the customer. You're the expert, and that's why they use you. And just because you're an internal mail center doesn't mean you shouldn't be selling yourself to your internal customers. In addition to those internal meetings, you should meet with your local postal representatives. As we've explained, there were preparation changes for first-class mail, marketing mail, and parcels. So meet with your Postal Service representative and go over how these induction changes and preparation changes impact your mail. Go over the postage statement you're filling out today and how will it look tomorrow. And the fact that you're no longer sorting to the 3-digit, but you're sorting to AADC. It's really important to spend time with your local postal reps. I also think you should consider meeting with your business mail entry manager or her representative. You should be meeting with your meter and software representative. Now, by meetings, it could take place over the phone or a WebEx or something like that. But you need to talk about when you're going to receive your updates. If you use a digital postage meter, how do you download an update? When is that going to take place? How is that going to take place? And who actually does the installation? Meet with your service representative to discuss that, or with the service tech who works on your machines. With your software vendors, talk about when you're going to receive updates, how you would do the updates, and how do you check to make sure it was properly installed. Meet with your mail center employees. Go over this presentation, or at least the parts of the presentation that impact your categories of mail. This webinar is being recorded, and the PDF is made available for download. You may want to do a lunch and learn with your employees, have them listen to the webinar, and you can stop at any time and answer questions as you go along. The next phase is the end of day on either January 20th or 21st. Why 2 different days? Well, if you're generally a 5-day-a-week shop, in other words, you process mail Monday through Friday, January 20th is the Friday. If you also enter mail on Saturday, January 21st is a Saturday. I recommend you make all of your changes at the end of the day after you've closed out the shop. And the reason for that, because Mondays can be Mondays. You don't know what's going to hit you on Monday, January 23rd when you walk through the door. You've closed out the day on Friday, you've closed out the day on Saturday. There's no immediate rush to get things done or get problems resolved. Take this time to take the steps that will make your Monday go a lot easier. So upload any software for your meter or forms. Post reminders around your mail center on the new rates and the increases that are taking in effect. Post a reminder at the meters. Post a reminder if you have customer service window on the window to remind customers and the service clerks about the changes. Go around and collect every single printed form and recycle them, and then put out the new forms downloaded from the Postal Service. Do that at the end of the day, Friday or Saturday. Now you get to Monday, January 23rd. The first thing you want to do is send out another announcement to your customers reminding them, today's the day the changes take place. This may be an email that you've already prepared. It may be something you've physically mailed on Friday. But make sure you send this announcement to all your customers, internal and external. Start the day with a briefing to all your mail center employees. This can be a quick 5-minute huddle with all employees reminding them that the new rates have gone into effect, the new preparation standards have gone into effect, and the new forms have gone into effect. As you remind them, answer any additional questions they might have. Go around and test every meter and online form. Because the software is digital, things may not work until January 22nd, which reminds me, that was Sunday. Why not come in on Sunday and do all of that testing? Make sure the meters are putting the right amount of postage on your 1-ounce pre-sorted mail, etc. And make sure your online forms have the new rates loaded on them. You also should consider having additional quality control checks throughout the day. Now, I'm sure all of our listeners have quality control checks in place for their outbound mail. However, on a day when rates change, you may want to have new and additional quality control checks just to make sure nothing gets mixed up. The last thing I recommend is that I would have a manager or supervisor accompany your mail to the Postal Service. The first time you enter mail under the new standards, the new rates, have a manager or supervisor ride along. There may be some questions that come up. You have to remember, this is a big change for the Postal Service too, and you want to make sure you have somebody there to resolve any issues that could come up. Ask the right questions and answer the right questions. Don't throw this on your clerks and drivers. By the way, this is a great opportunity to show your employees that you're stepping up and providing that additional support.
Mark, you've covered a lot of information with us today, and I want to thank you for taking the time to walk through the USPS rate increase. Do you have any closing comments?
Well, several things. The first thing that we've included here is a slide on resources. The USPS.com website has received numerous awards for its ease of use, and I agree. I think it's easy to use, and the awards are well-deserved. As we mentioned, they have the price list easily available, and they have links to all the Federal Register notices. There are a couple areas deeper within the USPS website that you should be spending time on. The first is Postal Explorers, which is pe.usps.com, no www. This is where you can easily access the Notice 123, the Domestic Mail Manual, the DMM, and other publications to allow you to quickly get the information you need on how to prepare your mail. The DMM Advisory is one of the most important services the Postal Service provides. It allows you to receive updates via email from the Postal Service on pricing changes, regulatory changes, or potential notices going into the Federal Register. And how do you get it? It's very simple. You send an email to dmmadvisory@usps.com. Include your name and your email address in the body and put subscribe in the subject line. This is one of the most important tools that we use as consultants, and I recommend it to all of our customers to use as well. There's no way I could keep up with this rate increase or the other changes if I didn't have the DMM Advisory notices coming into my mailboxes. I also recommend that you sign up for the PCC Insider Newsletter. Many times this is the same information coming out from DMM Advisory, but it also includes information about online courses that are available or courses that are available for PCCs to present to their members. To be successful, I want to start with a quote from a good friend of mine, Doug Ainsworth. Doug ran a very successful pre-sort company and now owns a direct mail company. And as I was starting my own pre-sort business, Doug said, "Mark, you need to know your mail." That was one thing he always knows. He knows his mail. So what does that mean? Well, it means you know the content of your mail. What class should you be using? Is it first-class mail, or could it qualify as USPS marking mail? Is it bound printed matter, or is it media mail? You not only need to know the content of your mail to determine class, and then the category within the class. You need to know the characteristics of your mail. What's the shape? What's the size? What's the weight? What are the dimensions of your mail piece? Because that's also going to define the class that you fall into. Can you change the characteristics of your mail piece to take advantage of the lowest possible rates? And lastly, you need to know your quantities by category. You need to know what volumes you're sending by class of mail, what volumes you're sending by entry point category, and what volumes you're sending to what sort density. You should be looking at this continuously. I have on the slide weekly, monthly, and quarterly reviews. But I have to tell you something. The best mailers out there review their mail daily. That's right. Every day they're looking at the mail. They're looking for what's different about today. What could they change or should have changed about today's mail? Could they have potentially delayed today's mail to go out with tomorrow and achieve even greater discounts? So you need to be looking at your mail constantly. This is not necessarily a full-time job, but a very important part of either your job or somebody with a keen analytical mind who reports to your organization. The last recommendation is about the Postal Service. As they like to say, USPS begins with you. The Postal Service has spent a lot of time educating their managers and business service network representatives on the changes. They've been educating their sales force on what's available for commercial mailers. Take the time to use your local resources. Meet with your business mail entry manager. Meet with your account representative. If they're local, meet with your mail piece design analyst. What changes can you make to your characteristic, your content, your quantities, your sort schemes to really maximize the discounts that are available to you? And remember, to be successful, know your mail.
Before we close this out, Mark, do we have any questions from our listeners?
No, there are no questions.
Okay, thank you. Mark, thank you very much for the information you shared with us today. I would also like to thank our listeners. If you'd like any additional information, please visit our website at www.berkshire-company.com. And we look forward to seeing everyone at the National Postal Forum in Baltimore, May 21st through the 24th, to receive an extra 10% discount off your 2017 NPF registration. be sure to check the box labeled I have a different discount code and enter the code Fallon 2017 into the discount code box and then click Apply. To learn more about registration options and opportunities to save, visit www.npf.org for details. Until then, goodbye.